All right, hey everybody, welcome to Mahoning Valley Sports Show. I'm editor Chris Pugh. I've got sports writer Mike Brown with us. Mike, there's too much to talk about today. We're at the end of the spring high school season, and man, I think it took us 20 minutes to figure out what we're covering this weekend. There's
Well,
a
it's
ton.
it's a it's a good kind of problem to have, Chris. We've got four softball teams in the state tournament, and we've got I believe we've got 4 or 5 baseball teams in the regional tournament. So that's a good thing all the way around.
Yeah, I mean, let's go through these, and then we also have a state track tournament we'll talk about briefly too. Yeah, softball. I'll tell you, in all my journalism career, and I've worked at different places in Ohio, man, sometimes I know last year in softball we had two teams in there.
Yeah,
Two teams seem to be a little bit beyond the norm wherever you're at. If you're in
yeah,
Youngstown or the Canton area or Columbus is a bigger area, but
right.
when you're at a semi-major market, one
Hmm.
or two is usually it. But we've talked about how great softball is.
Yeah,
My my goodness, and you look at the teams that made it. Obviously, Austintown Fitch, they're in the top 5 of the country right now. Um,
absolutely.
Canfield has been number one in the state. They're,
Right.
right at the top.
Yep.
We have South Range that's in it. They beat a good Warren Champion team. If South Range didn't do it, we've had another local team in Champion that was there.
Right. Oh,
And,
absolutely.
and then Matthews, and this is take nothing away from Matthews. They're the team that we haven't talked about as much this year,
Right. They're in
but
deep.
we've been so top heavy. I mean,
Right.
uh, what's your? I know it's hard because Fitch had a challenge last week in the regionals. You never know when it comes this time of year. Usually, you get more of the tight one
Yeah.
zip 2-1 game. So,
Right.
but man, we could have multiple champions by this time Saturday night.
Yeah, I mean, these teams, and we've said all along that they had staying power, and here they are in the state tournament. And I think we could have some multiple state champions if everything rolls right this weekend.
Yeah, Canfield's really rebounded. They had a loss or two toward the end of the year, but they've been on a good winning streak.
Yep,
Their pitcher, Melina Toff, has been really,
yep,
really good as of late.
yep,
Um, Fitch, I mean, you had some stat last week that just blew me away.
yeah,
They were outscoring teams what was like 90 something to 1 over the
yeah,
past several games.
yep,
Yeah, and
yep,
they keep rolling. I think it was Amherst. They play a tough team that gave them all they could handle, but they won that game. And
yep,
sometimes, like the best teams, you win that game where things are hard. You win that game when you're
yep,
being challenged, so it's good.
right.
So we've talked so much about Fitch and Canfield this year. What has struck you the most about South Range just throughout the whole year?
They've quietly gone about their business this year, and Champion got a lot of press. South Range was in our poll too, but
Right.
South Range knocked off Champion in a great pitching duel. In South Range has great history too. South Range. We talk about South Range. They're in the regional baseball tournament this week, and they're in the state softball tournament. So, man, what a great spring they're having.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And Matthews, it's interesting. They were in, I think, your last top 7. Um,
Yep, that's right.
um, very good. Suffering Matthews. Any every year, Matthews probably in our top 3. What
Yeah.
strikes you the most about Matthews?
Well,
What
their
stuck
tradition
out is
too.
their hit for pitching.
Matthews has been there and done that before too. They've been at state before. They always have great pitchers at Matthews. They're going to go against Monroeville Thursday in a semifinal at Firestone Stadium in Akron. And then they've got good tradition. We talked about South Range. They're going to go against South Webster on Thursday at 5:30. That's going to be in Akron at Firestone Stadium as well. And then obviously Canfield and Springfield Kenton Ridge.
Yeah,
Canfield's 25-3. Kenton Ridge is 28-4. And then at Fitch, 21-1. They're going to go against Fairfield, who's 23-3. That game is going to be Friday at 3 p.m. So, we've got some great matchups that are going to be held at Firestone Stadium. And that is a really cool place, too, Chris. Firestone Stadium in Akron. That's a place where Babe Ruth, at one time, way back in the day, an exhibition game batted. So when those kids step to the plate, they're going to be stepping on an area where Babe Ruth once batted, which is really cool to think about.
Yeah, he was. If I remember, he was at Barnstorming tour, right?
Yes, that's
He kind of went
correct.
through
You are
Akron.
correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
I got stuck on the YouTube rabbit hole and was watching a lot of old Babe Ruth documentaries one night.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot about Babe Ruth and his connections with Northeast Ohio. It was fun.
Yep.
And then when we get to baseball, it's interesting. We have 4 teams, I believe, that are in the baseball regionals. It starts out with an interesting one. These are all in Stark County. But you've got West Branch or Ursuline. So a couple teams facing off against each other on Thursday.
Right. That should be a great matchup. Those two met in the first game of the regular season. West Branch won 3-0. But I tell you what, Ursuline has been on a roll in the postseason. They knocked off a really good Canfield team. They've knocked off a couple really good teams. So that should be a great rematch between Ursuline and West Branch over at Thurman Munson Stadium in Canton. And that's going to be on Thursday at 2 p.m.
Yeah, they beat Poland. They were kind of beating some of our top teams in the baseball pool.
That's right. They beat Poland and Canfield. They beat 2 really quality programs.
Okay, and then we also have Kennedy, and as you said, we have South Range playing.
Yep, and obviously Warren Kennedy's had a lot of baseball success the last several years, and here they are again in the regional. They're coming off a 2-0 win over Mineral Ridge, and so they're going to be playing on Thursday in a regional semifinal. So that's going to be Thursday in a regional semifinal. So that's going to be really interesting as well.
How is it? I just noticed this. I know in softball sometimes like you can have a pitcher pitch multiple games. Baseball is kind of interesting. You've got one of those games on Thursday. If you win, you go Friday.
Right.
So I'm guessing there's got kids that you can't have pitched both games.
That's exactly right. Yep, you are correct.
And you don't always see that during the regular season. So it almost seems like whoever makes out regional probably has the best pitching staff, right?
Well, usually, a lot of times it comes down to which team has the best second pitcher because these games, as you go deeper in these tournaments, the scores come down and pitching dominates. And a lot of times, the team that has the second best pitcher in baseball has a better chance to move on.
Yeah, because it's interesting. I'm looking at Matthews and South Range when we go back to softball.
Yeah.
They play Thursday.
Yeah.
And, well, I guess when it comes to Canfield and Fitch, they play back-to-back days. But in softball, you see sometimes that pitcher can go back-to-back days.
Oh, yeah, because, softball and, the pitchers can – they can.
But baseball, it's going to be a challenge. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And, again, we're not here to make predictions. But, again, you have 4 state softball teams. You would think you got a decent chance of having at least 1, maybe 2.
Right.
Make it win state titles. Heck, you never know. It could be 4.
Right.
We'll have coverage. Now, here's the plan. It's we're small in our staff, but we're trying to be mighty this weekend. I'll be up in Akron with the 4 teams. I'll cover them throughout. I'll keep you guys updated on what's going on there. Mike will be down at Thurman Munson Stadium in Canton. Man, I could do a 2-hour podcast with Thurman Munson alone. I grew up in the area. My dad took me a lot of old Canton Akron baseball games.
I did too. Yep.
But that will be Mike will be there on Thursday. We're not sure if we can make it Friday, but either way, we'll have a roundup of how the winner does. And we'll also have a roundup both days of Matthews as well as I'm sorry, in terms of baseball, we'll have a roundup of Kennedy and South Range, how they do too.
That is
in addition, and unfortunately we won't have somebody there in person, but we'll also have coverage of the state track meet, a 3-day affair this year, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Look for results. We'll have a list of the winners or kids that have done really well to the tournament. You'll see that either Sunday or Monday's edition of Mahoning Matters, but we will have that for you just so you know what's going on there.
Very busy weekend and really a really good thing. We have so many area teams and individual athletes that have done so well. Congratulations to all of them.
And I'll say this. Let me put a quick pitch for this. You might be like, well, why can't you cover this? Or why can't you cover all the games? We're a small, mighty staff, but we're always trying to raise money to help bring more people along. where we can have more personal coverage of this. I mean, we definitely want to cover everything out there. Again, Mike is a part-time. It's probably the best way of describing him. But like I said, as we grow, we look for donations to help us out. We're a free website. We don't have subscription costs or anything. But if you make a donation to Mahoning Valley, you see a link on all of our stories, you can help bring on more people. If you're a business and want to support a reporter, you can make a larger gift that way. But even your small donations help us keep the lights on, the door open. And as we get more donations, we can either bring on more freelancers or bring on more full-time people to even provide more coverage. But either way, we'll have coverage of everything. I just kind of want to give you a reminder of how things work. Let's talk about some regional stuff too. Cleveland Guardians. Again, we were saying, is this just a hot start? Or is this a trend? I mean, I gotta say this is a trend. I mean, they're playing well. There was a crazy stat. I can't remember who it was on Twitter that was saying the last 3 times that the Indians at that time have had a start like that, they made the World Series. So I'm not sure if we can predict World Series yet. But again, I'm seeing this becoming more of a trend than just a hot start.
Yeah, and the other thing too is the Indians are, they went with a balanced schedule a few years ago in Major League Baseball. The Indians are achieving this record against everybody in the league. They're playing everybody.
Right.
It's not like in the old days, the AL Central wasn't quite as good, and so you had teams that might have like bloated records a little bit, and then had trouble maybe getting through the postseason. But they're playing a balanced schedule. They're out in Colorado right now, and they're playing everybody in Major League Baseball, and I think they've done a fantastic job out the gate. When you think, we're past the I believe the quarter mark of the season, and they're what, that last check, I think they were 17 games over 500, something like that, Chris. So they're doing a great job under their new manager.
Well, and here's the other thing too, and we're still under the same financial reality when it comes to baseball. I mean, the Guardians all have a huge payroll.
Yeah.
Other teams have a bigger payroll, but I'm not seeing the Yankees run away and hide. I'm not seeing the Red Sox run away and hide. They both. I mean, these teams that can spend more money have good rosters, but in years past, even when like the Indians were in the '90s, where they were paying more money, you sat there and said, "Oh man, how do you compete against the Yankees that have big bloated payroll?" Well, the Yankees have a bigger payroll than the Guardians now, but I don't think the Yankees can run away with the roster they have. I mean, right now the Guardians are matched up with some of these other teams. Like, there's no. I think the only thing I can maybe make a exception for is like the Dodgers. The Dodgers have a ridiculous roster and a payroll, but the Dodgers aren't running away from anybody. Mm-hmm. So unlike past years, you might sit there and say, "Oh, the Guardians have a great start," but what happens when they, play these big market teams all throughout? They're kind of at that level, which is which is good. Yep. Even the fact they don't have as big of a payroll.
Right. Yeah. When you think about it, we're getting back to the balanced schedule. They've played the Yankees already this season. I don't know if they've gone against the Dodgers yet or not. I think maybe they have. But they're playing everybody in baseball, and they've got a great record. So hey, hats off to the Guardians.
Yeah, looking at the records now, again, we're taping this Monday afternoon, so by the time you listen to the records, it's going to be slightly different. Mm-hmm. But right now, I mean, the Yankees have the best record at 37-18. But again, they're not running away. I think the challenge is going to be is assuming the Guardians kind of keep this up. I've already heard rumors about, hey, there's some guys they could target in trades. Mm-hmm. I think the Guardians, if you're looking at it and saying, hey, we can compete with the Yankees when it comes playoff time, I think they really got to look at it and say, what can we do to improve the team with a veteran when that time comes?
Yep.
Because, again, the Yankees technically are a half game ahead of the Guardians. The Guardians are right in the same mix, but the Guardians can't rest. I mean, the Guardians got to say, hey, if we think we could do it, maybe where's the chance that we can improve our team? Mm-hmm. The other team that's kind of right up there is the Baltimore Orioles. Orioles have got a really good young team. It'll be interesting to see if they can hold up. Now, the Orioles are very young. I don't know if they're going to be able to hang around with the Yankees, but the Orioles have a ton of good talent.
Yeah, the organization, their record wise is really they've really improved the last couple years. I think all those great Baltimore teams way back in the day when we were kids. Think about that. Baltimore, I think they're one of the few teams, if maybe the only team that had 4 20-game winners way back in the day. I mean, they had Mike Cuellar and Pat Dobson and Jim Palmer. I mean, that was a great. Think about that, Chris. 4 20-game winners on the same
Yeah.
pitching staff. I don't think we'd ever see that again. I don't know if guys you'd have 4 guys with 20 starts on a team. You may have a couple that have 20, but in a season, that's amazing.
Well, and the hard thing about that now, and we're going to talk about this in a second when we get to Paul Skenes, with the way guys are pitching now. I mean,
Yeah.
I
Situational baseball. Yep.
I'm a regular day by day watcher of baseball. I just kind of track in when we talk about and stuff like this.
Yeah.
I am shocked, and again, I know it's a trend. I know it's what they're doing with pitchers now, but you see guys going 5 6 innings,
Right.
and I think sometimes what makes what you're talking about with the Orioles a lot more remarkable is
Yeah.
you may not see that again because when you see
No,
guys only go 5 innings,
that's
the
right.
chances are pretty high that even if they have a great performance, it's a no decision, like if the lead
Yep.
changes or anything like that.
You got it. Yep.
Yeah, but so it's definitely really crazy.
That
I,
is.
I want
That's amazing.
I want to mention the other baseball team in our area is the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yeah.
Pirates are 25-29. They're 6.5 games out.
Hmm.
I NL Central, nobody's running away with that division. I don't know. I'm hearing some talk from some friends in Pittsburgh podcasting that the Pirates could be a playoff team. I don't know if we can go that far yet. But what is interesting about the Pirates is I'm seeing on Guardian message boards, why aren't the public talking about the Guardians? And the Guardians have some really good talent.
Yeah.
I saw something about, I think like Jose Ramirez has more home runs than strikeouts, which
Hmm.
is amazing. So, I mean, they've got guys you can hang your hats on,
Right.
but they don't have that one singular person that almost catches the attention of everybody.
Hmm.
It's interesting. The Pirates almost hit the national media more than the Guardians, even though the Guardians have a much better record.
Hmm.
It's because of that Paul Skenes. I mean, very hyped. He had okay first start against the Cubs, and you're thinking, are we overhyping him too much? Then about a week ago, he goes against the Cubs and he pitches like 6 no-hit innings,
Hmm.
um, pitches 11 strikeouts. I don't know. I think the hype is legitimate on this kid. I mean,
Sure.
he seems to be the real deal. I know he's only had 2 3 starts now.
Yeah.
I mean, is there any doubt that he's the guy you think?
No, well, I think that's a good situation for baseball when you have, a guy that's drawing a lot of interest as a young player, doing really well with it. Let's face it. Cleveland and Pittsburgh are smaller markets when it comes to baseball. So I think that's a really good story, and I think people get behind that. They want to root for a guy like that. So that's a great story all the way around, Chris.
Well, I know you're a much bigger baseball fan, but I will tell you, and maybe this doesn't mean as much for wins and losses, but I think the thing that Pittsburgh can really benefit from, you need somebody that catches the attention of everybody.
Sure.
I know I kind of got away from basketball before the Cavs were able to get LeBron for the first time.
Hmm.
When the Cavs got LeBron, I was starting to follow Cavs games a lot more.
Sure. Yeah.
And I found myself, I am a very casual baseball fan. I'm not really that much into some of the guys that are playing right now.
Hmm.
But when the Pirates got Paul Skenes, I'm starting to look at Pirates
Sure.
box scores, which I haven't done since Andy Van Slyke, Bobby Bonilla. And
Yeah.
you can sit out there and say, well, Chris is probably not a real fan. I'll admit, I'm not a real baseball fan. But what really helps, and I'm looking more at bottom line, like people buy tickets and everything.
Sure. Yeah.
When they can develop guys like that, now you're selling more tickets and everything. And I
Right.
think it really helps the club, not just on the field, but off the field too, which has been a problem in the past for the Pirates. So
Yeah.
I think this is a good problem that the Pirates find themselves in.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more, Chris.
Definitely. And one other thing, and it's not just one small thing, it's a bigger thing. The Cavs ended up firing JB Bickerstaff. Here's kind of my take on it. We talked about this near the end of the Celtics series when it looked like the Cavs were falling in that series. The Celtics are a really good team to start out with. The Celtics just swept a good Pacers team. It'd been interesting to see what would happen if the Pacers and Cavs face each off against each other in a 7-game series. I mean, the Celtics are a class of the Eastern Conference, but I think you can make an argument that the Cavs are probably the second best team in the Eastern Conference right now. I really think I think it comes down to the Cavs have a good roster. The Cavs were kind of stuck. And, I think it was the roster makeup. I mean, Donovan Mitchell obviously is a great scorer. He kind of strikes you more as a good point guard, maybe the shooting guard, in my opinion. So you got two good point guards, you got two good big guys.
Yeah.
You don't really have that 2-3 position when you're talking about shooting guard and small forward. Yeah, I mean, Mitchell's a great shooting guard too, but man, if you could have a Donovan Mitchell point and two good guys at wings, like a 3-and-D guys, how much better could you be?
Yeah.
We talked about this before we started recording. A lot of question marks with the Cavs.
Yeah.
A lot of people are thinking that Don Mitchell will sign a max when it's presented to him. And I'm thinking that might be what happened. But when that happens, I think that triggers maybe the departure of Darius Garland, just because I don't think those two guys are a great fit together based on their size. And then you also say, Jarrett Allen's a good big man, but in today's NBA, you don't have the twin towers. So the thought is if you had to pick one, you'd probably pick Evan Mobley because he becomes a little bit more highly regarded. So what happens with Garland and Allen? Could you make an argument saying maybe we get some decent guys to throw in there, and Allen and Garland could be a fantastic, second, unit that comes in? I don't know if you could say that either. So you're probably going to see some changes happen. And I'll be honest with you, I don't necessarily think JB Bickerstaff was a bad coach. I think you're in a position where you say, hey, if we run this back, we're running the second round and we're out. Yeah. So we've got to come up with a different voice, a different way of looking at things. I know JB was a better defensive coach. Maybe you bring in more of an offensive mind. It just sounded like JB got caught up where it was like, it's not that he's a bad coach. It's just maybe he's not the right fit for that certain situation.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. There was a lot of talk even when after they advanced through the first round that will he be back next year? And obviously Dan Gilbert has made that decision. But I don't think this is the last move the Cavs make in this offseason.
Oh, yeah.
I think we're going to see at least two more major moves. Now, what that's going to be, could be some of those players you were talking about. But I think I agree with you. I think in the Cavs' mind, they realized they had gotten to a certain point, but to get past that, they're going to have to shake things up a little bit, and I think we're going to see that in this offseason.
Well, and the $200 million question, I'm not saying sarcastically, I mean it realistically, but that's what I think Mitchell is due. I think it's like a $200 million 4-year contract if they resign him. The big question is what happens with Donovan Mitchell, and nothing against Darius Garland, but Mitchell's their first option. So that's a big choice. I mean, even if he just resigns, that's a big choice.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't, obviously you look at, and they don't have to trade him, but the rumors I'm hearing is if you don't trade him, he can walk for nothing. So why not look at that?
Right.
And the other thing is, what do you get back? Not just for Mitchell, but say Mitchell resigns. Yeah. What can Darius Garland fetch? I mean, I think Mitchell would get you more back in a trade, but can they get something of value for Garland? I think they can. May not be as much as you think, but I mean, they're going to get something of value. And what type of guy you bring in? I saw rumors saying maybe Garland to Orlando for Jalen Green. Well, Jalen Green's the same type of guy. So does that help? I mean, like you need somebody. You need a different body type. You need a taller person that can play 2 or 3 really well, And I think that's the challenge that the Cavs face. It's not just saying, oh, we need some talented players. It's like, what type of player do you bring in? Is it post? Is it a wing or whatever the case would be? And that's going to be hard.
It's got to be the right fit. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's, I think, the difficult thing. The LeBron thing, I know we spent some time speculating on what that would look like. It was funny. I didn't watch this live, but I saw a clip of it. Rich Paul, who's LeBron's agent, was on one of those alternate telecasts of an NBA playoff game where writers will sit and talk, kind of like the main cast on ESPN, and they directly asked him, and Rich Paul said LeBron's going to be a free agent. Now, he didn't say he's leaving the Lakers,
Right.
but he kind of left that door open, and there's all kinds of talk. Apparently, it doesn't matter as much to Bronny, but LeBron would love to play with his kid.
Right.
So there's some talk now back to the can some team get Bronny on the team? If they get Bronny on the team, could that mean LeBron?
Yeah.
Interesting thought I had, and as far as I know, the Suns are out there, and the Suns I think pick earlier than the Lakers. The Suns are in an interesting position.
Yeah.
They're very top heavy. They have a top three that gets paid a lot of money. But they have nobody else of merit. I mean, a lot of these other guys are on veterans minimum contracts. So, I mean, it would take LeBron to agree to a much smaller contract. But, man, could you imagine LeBron with a lineup of Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker?
And, it's going to be an interesting offseason in a lot of ways for a lot of teams, Chris.
Well, and there's some seismic moves. And I think the other thing that people need to realize, I mean, LeBron's a much of a name, not just on the court or off the court. He's worth a max contract, but you got to remember, LeBron's the oldest guy in the league now. So, I mean, LeBron is probably, I would still say at least top 5 in the NBA, but he's not the top guy on the court by far. But if you could get him for some of a cheaper contract, I don't think he'll play for the minimum. Man, what does that mean, and what could that do with the NBA? We joked about, like in football, the Steelers. I mean, Russell Wilson's not the caliber of LeBron, but when a guy can come to a team for $1 million a year, that changes a lot of things. Sure. I'm wondering if LeBron, and I don't, unless LeBron is sure playing his kid, I don't think it's going to take a lot less money. But if a LeBron would take less money than he would in the past, I mean, that alone could change the dynamics of the NBA wherever he would end up going.
Yeah, and only LeBron knows. He's really good at at seeing really what a good fit for him would be, and I'm sure he'll land it in the best situation he can. As far as because I know he wants to win another title, so I'm sure he'll take a look at a lot of things and probably end up exactly where he wants to be.
Well, and hey, we appreciate everyone listening to Mahoning Matters. Please listen to all of our podcasts, not just sports. But if you have time to listen to other podcasts, LeBron, JJ Redick one that they're doing right now. Lots of X's and O's talks about basketball. But it's interesting. It's good to be in LeBron's shoes. You talk to so many other people who want the interviews, want to be featured in media. LeBron doesn't need to be featured. And it's neat hearing him just talk about his stuff. He's kind of thrown some vague speculation what he might do, but it's good to be in his position where he doesn't need to run to the media every time he wants to make an announcement. So
absolutely,
it's been really good. All right, well, thank you for the time. Appreciate your patience. It's been a very busy news afternoon of Mahoning Matters with some of the news things we got going on. Best thing I could say, continue to check MahoningMatters.com for latest on what's happening in Mahoning Valley. Mike, thanks for your time. Have a great day, everybody.